बाद पाकिस्तान की कोशिशें अमन की मंजिल नजर आने लगी। पूरी दुनिया को परेशान कर देने वाला तनाज़ा इख्तिताम के करीब है। ईरान और अमेरिका के दरमियान अमन माहिदे पर इत्तेफाक हो चुका। वजीर आजम शहबाज शरीफ ने इस बात की तस्दीक कर दी। कहा, पाकिस्तान फरीकैन के साथ मिलकर अगले मराहिल को हतमी शक्ल दे रहा है। अमन आज इतना करीब है, इससे पहले कभी नहीं था।
बिल्कुल। वजीर आजम ने अमरीकी सदर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप और ईरानी सदर मसूद पिज़ेशकियान समेत दीगर रहनुमाओं को पैगाम में टैग किया। शहबाज शरीफ ने कहा कि कुछ लोग मुआहिदा सबूताज करने के लिए गलत मालूमात फैला रहे हैं। तो आपको अपडेट कर रहे हैं कि पाकिस्तान की अमन की कोशिशें और अमन की मंजिल नजर आने लगी है। पूरी दुनिया को परेशान कर देने वाला तनाज़ा इख्तिताम के करीब पहुंच गया है। ईरान और अमेरिका के दरमियान अमन मुआहदे पर इत्तेफाक हो चुका है। वजीर आजम शहबाज शरीफ ने तस्दीक कर दी है। कहा, पाकिस्तान फरीकैन के साथ मिलकर अगले मराहिल को हतमी शक्ल दे रहा है। अमन आज जितना करीब है, इससे पहले कभी नहीं था। वजीर आजम ने अमरीकी सदर डोनाल्ड ट्रंप और ईरानी सदर मसूद पिज़ेशकियान समेत दीगर रहनुमाओं को पैगाम में टैग भी किया। शहबाज शरीफ ने कहा कि कुछ लोग मुआहिदा सबूताज करने के लिए गलत मालूमात फैला रहे हैं।
और इस वक्त अहम मामले पर बात करने के लिए अमरीकी सहाफ़ी कैटलिन डॉरेनबॉस हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। Thank you, Kathleen, for your precious time to join us on Samaa TV. You have been closely following the developments about US-Iran tensions. We have also have with our senior anchor, Mr. Talat Hussain. Talat Saab, over to you.
Kathleen, thank you very much for joining us. We again looked at your tweets and we figured out that it's almost 85%, or was it 82%, that the deal is going to be signed. You had a word with the president of the US. What was he telling you?
Yeah, so he told me yesterday it was all wrapped up, was the exact term that he used. He really felt confident this time that a deal was close. And what I learned from officials just now was that what's really making this time stand out is that we actually have a physical piece of paper that, according to my sources, will be called the Islamabad Memorandum of Understanding. And that physical piece of paper is what's different, because in prior negotiations and talks, as we've been covering this, for months now, those have been done verbally. The U.S. would submit a document, and then Iran would maybe return with some kind of verbal message. And now we're actually looking at a piece of paper.
That's great news for two reasons. One, it has Islamabad as a prefix to it. The other is that the draft text is ready. But you are saying it's an MoU, a Memorandum of Understanding. If you could, for the benefit of our viewers, tell us, how is that going to be different from an actual agreement like the, for instance, Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action was?
Yes. So the Memorandum of Understanding is going to accomplish a lot of big things, but also it's going to be kind of temporary if things don't go the way that they should be. So this Memorandum of Understanding agrees that the U.S. and Iran will begin about a 60-day period in which they will be discussing more terms that they are looking for. The U.S., of course, is looking for really solid, tangible changes and concessions from Iran with its nuclear program. And Iran is looking for some economic sweeteners, some relief, either that being the unfreezing of assets or the lifting of some sanctions. My sources, I had been kind of hearing that it's basically the same things that we have been discussing all along, right? The destruction of the nuclear weapons process, but also it's a bit of give and take, right? And once this memorandum is signed, hopefully, like you said, an 85% chance that it will be signed.
You have said many significant things here, Kathleen. Memorandum of Understanding could potentially lead to many agreements. One agreement potentially could be regarding what to do with Strait of Hormuz. Another agreement could be what to do with the nuclear material, nuclear dust, as Donald Trump, president of the US, calls it. So there's a possibility that while MoU is a broad gauge strategic document, the real work will begin after it is signed.
Yeah, that's absolutely, I think, a really good way to put it. The real work will begin once this is signed. It's taken us this long just to get here, and so it will be really interesting to see how far this can go. But I do want to say and just give credit to Pakistan and pat the backs there, because I think a lot of work will still be necessary from Islamabad, but it's certainly an honor, I think, that this Memorandum of Understanding, which is going to address some of the most immediate needs, being the reopening of the Strait of Hormuz, that's going to be a massive win for now, and hopefully we'll see it grow into something more solid and lasting in an eventual deal that might come at the end of this 60-day negotiation period that will reopen the straits after that's finished.
Hopefully, yes. Interesting choice of the venue, Geneva, no?
And I don't have that officially confirmed. I've heard that from sources, all over the place, including in Pakistan. But the U.S., my White House sources, still don't have. They're still not saying that there's a decided venue. So of course, I have my hopes that it could be Islamabad, but I have no indication to say that it actually would be there.
Let me tell you something as I speak to you, Caitlin. I'm looking at my other phone and I have this information that the news circulating in Pakistan that the PM is likely to fly tonight is not necessarily true. He may not be flying tonight. And we are told that journalists accompanying him have been asked to stay put and that they would be told fairly well in advance when the PM is leaving. So the PM is not leaving. So I would not rule out the possibility of the signing not being in Geneva, but in Islamabad.
Anything is possible. And I'm very interested with that news, because I had heard differently through Pakistani reports earlier, things that may indicate something different with the Prime Minister. I think what you're hearing now is true. I think that there is still a possibility of all kinds of things to happen. Another option, too, is, Geneva is where most of the U.S. admin officials are staging for the upcoming G7 talks nearby in Evian. So there is a reason to kind of be in Geneva if you want to meet American officials. But, they're going to be over there. Maybe they'll change things and move over to Islamabad. You never know. I plan to call, once I get the president on the phone next, I plan to mention, hey, what about Islamabad? We'll see.
Yeah, please ask him where should you be, because Geneva is some distance from Islamabad. You need to be at the right spot at the right time. But
it is, certainly. And I think the only reason, too, that it wouldn't be Islamabad would be just logistically. It is a long flight, but, they've worked very hard for this to happen.
Yeah, I can understand that. Just one last thing. You have spoken to the president consistently throughout this crisis. Last 3 months, you must have spoken to him dozens of times. But you started off by saying that this time around he sounded more confident, though there's a little caveat to that as well. Just before he started to talk about the firmness of the deal, he had also put on his social media account a dire threat. But within hours, he just changed that. So, was it that close to, full-scale war and then a full-scale agreement? Was it running that close to each other?
That doesn't surprise me, right? Because things have just gotten so close to the line. And the pressures are high, and the president has been waiting for weeks and weeks and weeks for something to happen. I think he very much wanted to signal that he was ready to go ahead and launch full-scale if Iran was not willing to come to the table. Now, part of the background there is that actually before he made the Karg Island announcement, that is when, it was actually the night before, I reported this yesterday, that Wednesday night was when Iran actually finalized the agreement and passed it through the Qataris. So chicken or egg, who knows? Both of the sides are going to say different things, but certainly the president was ready and willing to take on those strikes. Clearly, I think we're all kind of breathing a sigh of relief that doesn't seem to be happening right now.
Wonderful, Caitlin. Thank you very much for joining us, and stay put. We will look at your social media posts and kindly do look at what's coming out of Pakistan as well. This is a world of possibilities. But for a change, the possibilities look very positive. Thank you very much for being with us again.
Yes. Thank you.